Nicole Kidman has spent decades in the spotlight, a name synonymous with elegance, versatility, and timeless Hollywood success. From the haunting drama of The Others to her Oscar-winning transformation in The Hours, she's proven herself one of the most gifted actresses of her generation. But behind the red carpets, flawless performances, and polished interviews lies another story, one that Hollywood doesn't always like to talk about. Throughout her career, Nicole has worked alongside some of the biggest names in the business. And while the results on screen have often been cinematic magic, the behind-the-scenes dynamics haven't always been smooth. Directors demanding perfection, co-stars with clashing methods, creative differences that pushed even Nicole to her limits. Nicole Kidman's journey to stardom didn't begin with glamour and fame. It began with ambition, discipline, and an unshakable desire to prove herself. Born in Honolulu and raised in Australia, Nicole discovered acting at a young age, drawn to the emotional storytelling that would one day make her a Hollywood powerhouse. From her earliest performances, she stood out for her ability to lose herself completely in a role, a trait that would become both her greatest strength and, at times, her most challenging quality. Her breakout came in 1989 with the Australian thriller Dead Calm. The performance was raw, haunting, and unlike anything audiences had seen from a young actress at the time. Hollywood took notice, and soon she was thrust into a world of opportunity and pressure. When Days of Thunder paired her with Tom Cruise, she became an overnight sensation. Fame arrived fast, and with it came the realities of working in an industry built on competition, scrutiny, and perfection. On set, Nicole quickly earned a reputation as a professional who gave everything to her work. She was punctual, precise, and deeply invested in every scene. But that intensity sometimes clashed with co-stars who weren't used to such relentless focus. Directors admired her commitment, but others occasionally found it intimidating. One filmmaker described her early years as a constant pursuit of emotional truth, even if it made everyone else uncomfortable. As she transitioned into the 1990s, Nicole began choosing roles that challenged her in new ways. Films like To Die For and Moulin Rouge proved she wasn't interested in playing it safe. She wanted depth, transformation, and authenticity, even if it meant friction behind the camera. Her co-stars and directors learned quickly. Nicole wasn't chasing fame anymore. She was chasing greatness. This perfectionism became both her weapon and her armor. It protected her from Hollywood's chaos, but it also isolated her at times. Long hours on set, emotional scenes, and an uncompromising work ethic took their toll. Yet she never backed down. "I'd rather risk failure than deliver something halfway," she once said. By the early 2000s, Nicole Kidman had become more than an actress. She was an artist, and her presence on any set meant the bar would be raised. She demanded authenticity from herself and those around her. And while that sometimes created creative tension, it also elevated every project she touched. Her colleagues describe her as meticulous, focused, and fearless, someone who could carry a film on her shoulders. Even in moments of exhaustion or doubt, Nicole doesn't just play the character, one producer recalled. She becomes it, and that level of immersion changes the entire atmosphere on set. But as her fame and reputation grew, so did the whispers. Stories began to circulate of disagreements with co-stars, directors, and even producers. Some labeled her difficult. Others called her misunderstood. The truth, however, was more complex. Nicole Kidman wasn't difficult. She was demanding, but only of the work. She believed in honesty, in depth, and in giving audiences something real. The rise of a perfectionist had begun, and it wouldn't be long before the pressures, rivalries, and creative clashes of Hollywood would test that perfectionism in ways Nicole could never have anticipated. By the late 1990s, Nicole Kidman was no longer just the bright young actress from Australia. She was a global name, known for her elegance, emotional range, and fearless choice of roles. But with that success came a new kind of challenge. The more demanding her performances became, the more tension she found herself navigating behind the camera. Nicole's approach to acting has always been immersive. She doesn't just study a role, she disappears into it. Directors often praise this dedication, but that same intensity can create friction when others on set aren't prepared for it. One insider once described working with her as being in the middle of a storm. Beautiful, powerful, and impossible to ignore. During the making of Eyes Wide Shut, 1999, directed by the legendary Stanley Kubrick, the world saw a glimpse of the lengths Nicole would go for her art. The film demanded emotional vulnerability, psychological tension, and raw intimacy, not just on screen, but throughout the entire production. Kubrick was infamous for pushing his actors to their breaking points, and Nicole met him there, head-on. Scenes were shot dozens, sometimes hundreds of times. Days stretched into months. The mental and emotional toll was heavy. While rumors of behind-the-scenes tension spread quickly, what truly emerged from that experience was a deeper understanding of Nicole's endurance. She learned to channel discomfort into performance, to transform creative conflict into cinematic magic. It wasn't easy, she later reflected, but sometimes the hardest environments produce your best work. Her next chapter came with Moulin Rouge, a film as dazzling as it was demanding. The musical's intense choreography, dramatic range, and emotional depth required absolute focus. Nicole threw herself into it completely, rehearsing long hours and performing through injuries. Director Baz Luhrmann admired her commitment, but it wasn't without strain. The pressure to deliver perfection under such demanding circumstances tested everyone involved. Still, Nicole emerged with one of her most iconic performances, and a reputation as one of Hollywood's most dedicated professionals. But not all sets were harmonious. On some projects, Nicole's drive for authenticity clashed with co-stars who preferred a looser, more improvisational approach. She believed in deep preparation, while others thrived on spontaneity. Those creative differences, while rarely personal, sometimes led to tension. Yet even in the midst of conflict, she maintained professionalism. Her focus always stayed on the work, not the drama. Directors who worked with her often say she sets the tone for a production. If Nicole is fully committed, everyone else has to rise to the occasion. And that's exactly what she expects. Not perfection, but passion. When you're on set with Nicole, one co-star said, you either give 100% or you get left behind. Through every clash and challenge, Nicole's reputation only grew stronger. She wasn't afraid of confrontation when it served the art. She believed in honesty over comfort, truth over politeness. And while that sometimes earned her headlines about rumored feuds, those who truly knew her understood. Nicole's fire wasn't about ego. It was about excellence. Her dedication began to inspire younger actors, especially women in Hollywood who admired her ability to command respect without compromising her values. She became a symbol of strength, resilience, and grace under pressure. Proof that you could stand your ground in an industry that often tried to silence strong voices. By the end of this era, Nicole Kidman had learned to navigate the delicate balance between collaboration and confrontation. For her, creative tension wasn't a burden, it was fuel. It was the spark that turned good performances into unforgettable ones. By the early 2000s, Nicole Kidman stood at a crossroads, a defining moment in both her personal life and her career. Her marriage had ended, her public image was under a magnifying glass, and Hollywood was waiting to see what she would do next. For many, that kind of scrutiny might have been paralyzing. But for Nicole, it became a turning point. It was the moment she decided to stop being cautious and start being fearless. After Moulin Rouge and the others, Nicole entered what many now call her golden era. She sought roles that broke stereotypes, pushing her into emotionally risky and artistically daring territory. In the hours, her transformation into author Virginia Woolf stunned critics and audiences alike. The film wasn't just a career milestone. It was a declaration that Nicole Kidman was no longer content to be seen as a Hollywood starlet. She was an artist, unafraid of pain, imperfection, or vulnerability. But this new chapter also came with a price. Fame and freedom rarely coexist peacefully. Her pursuit of authenticity often meant long, emotionally draining shoots and creative disagreements with directors who didn't always share her vision. Nicole's willingness to explore uncomfortable truths sometimes clashed with more conventional filmmaking styles. "I'm not interested in being liked," she once said. "I'm interested in being real." On the set of emotionally heavy films like Birth and Dogville, that philosophy was tested. Both projects demanded deep psychological intensity, and Nicole gave everything, sometimes to the point of exhaustion. She was known to isolate herself from the cast to stay emotionally connected to her characters. While this method helped her deliver haunting performances, it sometimes created distance between her and others on set. Some co-stars misunderstood her quiet focus as aloofness, when in reality it was her way of protecting the emotional space she needed to perform at that level. As her fame grew, so did the challenges of being a woman in an industry still dominated by powerful men. Nicole had to fight not only for complex roles but also for respect. Her insistence on depth and authenticity was sometimes misread as stubbornness. But she refused to apologize for her standards. "If you want to make something meaningful," she said, "you can't be afraid of friction. That's where truth lives." Her determination inspired many, especially actresses coming up behind her, who saw in Nicole a model of how to maintain control over one's career. She began producing films, choosing projects that resonated personally rather than commercially. Each choice reflected her growth, a woman reclaiming her narrative, shaping her destiny, and refusing to be defined by anyone else's expectations. The cost of greatness was high. Nicole often spoke about the loneliness that accompanied her dedication. Immersing herself so deeply in her roles left little room for normalcy. But she never wavered. Acting to her wasn't a job. It was an exploration of the human condition. Every moment of discomfort, every creative clash, every misunderstood silence was part of the journey toward truth. By the mid-2000s, Nicole Kidman had transformed from a Hollywood star into something rarer, an artist whose performances carried emotional gravity, depth, and a sense of fearless authenticity. The rivalries and tensions she faced along the way weren't failures. They were stepping stones. They revealed the price of excellence and the resilience of someone who refused to settle for less than extraordinary. She had learned that in the pursuit of greatness, peace isn't always possible, and that's okay. Because in the end, what lasts isn't the gossip, the headlines, or the whispers of tension. What lasts is the work, the honesty, the courage, and the performances that stand as proof that true artistry often comes from struggle. As Nicole Kidman entered the later stages of her career, something remarkable happened. The industry that once doubted her began to revere her. She was no longer simply a movie star or a tabloid figure. She had become a master of her craft, a symbol of endurance and reinvention. The same intensity that once sparked tension on set was now seen as artistry, the very force that had made her one of the most respected performers of her generation. By the 2010s, Nicole had evolved into a creative powerhouse, not only an actress but a producer, mentor, and advocate for women in film. She used her influence to champion stories that might otherwise have been ignored, giving voice to complex female characters often overlooked in mainstream cinema. From Big Little Lies to The Undoing, she took control of her narrative, not just as an actress delivering stunning performances, but as a woman shaping the future of storytelling itself. Her work on Big Little Lies became a defining moment in this transformation. The series demanded emotional depth, nuance, and courage. Nicole's portrayal of Celeste Wright, a woman trapped in an abusive marriage, was raw, honest, and deeply personal. She didn't shy away from the darkness of the role. She confronted it head-on, and in doing so, gave countless viewers permission to see strength in vulnerability. Behind the scenes, her leadership helped foster a set environment that valued collaboration over competition, a testament to how much she had grown from her early years of creative friction. Still, even with her evolution, Nicole remained unafraid of conflict when it came to protecting the work. She once said, "I'll always fight for what's real. That's what makes art matter." That conviction has guided her through every project, even when it meant standing her ground against powerful figures or industry expectations. Her calm resolve became her weapon, her artistry, her legacy. But perhaps Nicole's most enduring achievement isn't just the awards or critical acclaim. It's her ability to redefine what strength looks like in Hollywood. She proved that grace and grit can coexist, that perfection isn't the absence of struggle but the courage to keep going through it. Every creative clash, every misunderstood silence, every headline calling her difficult, they were all part of the price she paid to protect her art. Off-screen, Nicole's empathy and quiet resilience continue to inspire. She's spoken openly about balancing fame with family, ambition with humility, and the emotional toll of inhabiting dark roles. Unlike many stars who fade or play it safe, Nicole keeps evolving, stepping into roles that challenge, provoke, and sometimes unsettle. She isn't afraid to risk discomfort, because she understands that's where truth lives. Her story serves as a reminder that the path to greatness is rarely smooth. It's built on tension, perseverance, and the unshakable belief that authenticity matters more than approval. Nicole Kidman has shown the world that true artistry doesn't come from avoiding conflict. It comes from embracing it, learning from it, and turning it into something beautiful. Today, when young actors talk about Nicole, they don't speak of rumors or rivalries. They speak of inspiration. They see a woman who carved her place in history not by conforming, but by daring to be unapologetically herself. Nicole Kidman's legacy isn't written in gossip columns. It's etched into every frame of film she's ever touched. Her story is one of resilience, reinvention, and quiet rebellion. She stands as living proof that you can face pressure, overcome doubt, and still walk away with grace, because in the end, greatness isn't about being easy to work with. It's about being brave enough to demand excellence, even when it costs you everything. Insiders say that on certain sets, tension ran high, not because of ego, but because Nicole's fierce dedication to her craft sometimes collided with others' approaches. She's known for her precision, emotional depth, and complete immersion into her roles. But that kind of intensity can ignite friction, especially when others aren't ready to match her level of commitment. This is the side of Nicole Kidman you rarely see. The woman behind the Hollywood icon, navigating ambition, art, and the complicated human emotions that come with creative greatness. In this documentary, we'll dive deep into the stories that defined her journey, the rivalries, the challenges, and the powerful lessons that turned tension into triumph. Because behind every dazzling performance is a battle you never saw.